Welcome, everybody, to Firehouse Talks with Jersey Rick, Igniting Leadership Excellence. I'm Rick, and this is my co-host, Emily.
Welcome back.
This is the podcast where we talk about anything and everything related to leadership, and you don't have to be a firefighter to listen. As a matter of fact, we have people that are not firefighters who listen to our podcast. Today, we have a first. It's our first guest on our podcast, and it's Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President of the Maxwell Leadership Team. And welcome, Chris, to our podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Rick and Emily. Hey, I am excited being the very first guest on your podcast. I know
Yeah.
you all have been doing it for a while, but you said, hey, we're going to take some guests on. I get to be the first. So I am
Yeah.
honored, and what a joy to be here with you today.
Yeah, the irony, Chris, about this is after, I had met you in June at the
Yeah,
city tour down in the
yeah,
Denver metro area, and you offered to come
correct.
on. Got it booked through Lorna, and I started chuckling to myself, and I was laughing because I don't know how many times over these last several years on the mentorship calls, I've heard you talk about, this is the first ever.
Right.
For the Maxwell Certified Leadership Team. And I said, well, this is the first ever for us.
There
And the
we
first
go.
ever, you're here for the first ever. So a
That's
little bit of
right.
irony.
Right.
Fine.
Well, if you're not doing something for the first time, you're not growing. And so I make it my goal and my objective to every single day, how can I do something for the first time? And so, hey, this is the first time for me, first time for you. We're winning, we're growing today.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to turn it
That's
over to
great.
Emily here. She's got a couple questions to ask you to kick off the interview.
Yeah.
So, Chris, we're super happy to have you on, and we just like you to tell us about yourself and your background.
Yeah, so for me, I'm currently the Executive Vice President of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team, which is the largest leadership speaker training coaching company on the planet. We've certified over 59,000 coaches from around the world. 59,000 people come through the Maxwell certification. We continue to grow every single day. But I didn't start off in this role. In fact, I've only been in this role for about 5.5 years. But I was a member that was looking to try to figure out how to become a professional speaker. And I joined the team back in March of 2011 with this desire to just really add value to people. And the Maxwell team gave me the tools and resource support that I needed in order to go out and do that on my own. And as a result of doing that, I continued to come back and serve the team and share the results and just add value to the team. And I volunteered in every capacity that they had. I just loved being around the team because I knew this was my environment. I knew this were the people that I wanted to serve. And I continued to do that for several years. And eventually they asked me to teach on some calls. And then in 2016, watch the gap here, 5 years later, they asked me to, be part of the teaching faculty. And then 5 years later, they asked me to actually lead the team. And so my journey has been one that's been ups and downs, not just this straight shot that's just up, but lots of ups, lots of downs, and but truly always fueled by a passion to help add value to people.
Hmm,
Yeah, great.
that's
Hey,
so
Chris,
neat.
I have a question
Yeah,
related to your ups and downs.
yeah,
Because in the fire service, when we've pursued promotions, there are ups and downs related to that. And I certainly have experienced my ups and downs, preparing for promotion and then not
yeah,
getting it and then coming
yeah,
back around the second time and getting it. And that has happened more than one time. Could you tell our
yeah.
listeners how you dealt with those ups and downs?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a part of the process. So it's not a one-time shot and you get the promotion and then you're done for life. It's, hey, going to the chief, going to your promoting manager and saying, hey, I applied for this opportunity. I didn't get it. What is it that I need to work on? And so a lot of the ups and downs also come from, hey, I'm really good at my job. And we think that's enough in order to get to the next level. Well, it may be not good enough to open the door, but if you really want to excel at that next level, you really have to focus on developing your leadership ability and skills. Now, that was the biggest shift for me in my career was when I began reading John Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership.
Wow.
And in the book, he talked about the law of the lid, and then he had these two graphs. One graph showed, you and your dedication to success, and it showed on a scale of 1 to 10. And man, if I get really good at my job, this is how good I can be in that single job. But on the second page, which was page 6, there was another graph that added, if I added leadership ability on the left side of the axis, that grew my overall effectiveness. So it was in that time frame of my life when I realized that I didn't just need to be the star, I actually need to become a star creator. And that would make me more valuable to the organization. And so when I began to really shift my gears and my focus on how can I develop other people, how can I add value to other people, how can I develop my leadership skills, that's when things begin to rise because I closed the gap between my skill set and my leadership ability and being able to transfer that skill set to other people. That's where we get hung up is we're good at it, but can we transfer? And that's where a lot of frustration in leadership comes from is not having that intentional development in leadership to go there. So it's evolved over the years from me. I was able to recognize very early in my career that leadership development was going to be the key to not only promotion of myself, but promotion of others. Now, then there also comes those times where you're developing other people, and this is the true measure of leadership right here, is when we say that, oh, I want to develop people, I want to add value to people, I want to see people go beyond where I've gone, and then they do. Oh my goodness, when they're up for the same role that you're up for and somebody else gets it and you don't, you can either be bitter or you can be better.
Yeah.
And you have to choose to be better in those circumstances and say, hey, it was my work that helped this person get here. And if you truly led them well, hey, they're going to make it their mission to help you get to that next level as well. And so there's lots of ups and downs in this leadership journey, but you have to understand it's a journey, not just a destination to the next promotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Emily?
Yeah. So, what do you see as the greatest challenge that leaders face today?
Yeah, the greatest challenge that I see today is the same one that has been around for all of time. It's leading people. Okay.
Yeah.
Including us.
Right, including us. It's leading people. And that's always going to be the challenge in leadership that AI won't be able to take away, that somebody else can't take away. You have to realize that if you want to go into that leadership space and that if you want to excel as a leader, your job is developing the people, not continue to do the tasks that you used to do to get there, but what is it that you're doing to develop yourself, to develop people? So that's really the biggest challenge is that people are people. But if you follow a real simple philosophy, I think you'll go a long way. And that philosophy is this: treat people like people and adults like adults. And remember
Yeah.
that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned John's book, the 21 Laws, and you've talked
Yeah.
about, developing people, which that's always been a big thing with me too, Chris. The law of addition. Could
Mhm.
you expand on that with what you've already said about developing people?
Yeah, the law of addition says that we have to add value to others. And that can be very difficult for a leader that has always kind of held things close to the vest, or I'm going to learn this on my own and I don't want to delegate this thing off. That may help you get to the position, but when you get to the position, it's going to be very difficult to let go of those things. So I guess the easy example for it is that if the goal is for me to get a hold of this pen and I grip this pen as hard as I possibly can, and I always hold on to this pen, well, that's all I'm going to ever have. But if I open my hand, if I add value to people, that hand is open. I can add other things to it and I can let things go as well to give me more dexterity to do more things. And so the law of addition simply says that we have to add value to others. That's our way to success with people. That's our way to promotion on the job. And so when you can begin to get that mindset, that'll truly shift the way that things work in your life.
A shifting mindset, because the analogy that you use where somebody's holding that ink pen close to them,
Yeah.
and what I have seen over the years, lots of that is associated with ego, pride,
Yeah, yeah.
power, and fear. Could you address that?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, it is. It really is. It's ego saying, well, I'm the only person that can do this, or I'm the best at doing that. That holds us back from letting go of it. It's fear and this is the greatest fear. This is the greatest fear. What if I hand that off to someone else and they don't need me anymore?
Ah,
You see,
mhm,
part of our identity, part of our pride and ego is that I'm needed on the job. And if I let go of
mhm,
this thing, then I could get fired. But it couldn't be any further from the truth. The more that you can let go of, the more autonomy it allows for you to have inside the organization to do other things and to grow to different levels. But if you want to keep what you have, well, you can keep it, but you'll never have anything else.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I was going back through my notes. I came on the team in May of 2020, so it's been just a little over 5 years I've been on the team. And as you can imagine, I've got a lot of notebooks full of
Yeah,
notes.
correct. Yeah.
And I was going back through those, Chris. And one thing that happened a couple of years ago, and this will lead into a question, is well, we vacation down at the seashore in North Carolina, and there was one evening my other daughter Rebecca and I were walking along the beach at sunset, and I turned around and our footprints were highlighted in the wet sand. And I said, I'm going to take a picture of this. This will come handy sometime. Well, it did. That following month, I started writing a series of blogs. It was 7 blogs, and I called it Dual Footprints Becoming a World-Class Mentor. So, with
Mm.
that being said, and as I went back through my notes, I found the statement that you had made that I'd like you to add to or explain, and that was mentors are practitioners, not philosophers.
Yeah, I love that when I'm looking for a mentor. I want somebody that has walked the walk already, that's been down
Mhm.
the path. And
Mm,
if I look at any area of my life that I want to grow in, I always go and find a mentor or a coach, someone that's further down the path than I am that can help me along the way. And I'm here today as a result of mentors in my life. And so, but I'm looking for those that have results in it. Okay. Because
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that the mistake that a lot of
yeah.
people make is they say, well, I have a mentor at work. And I can tell you that my imagination, I don't know where I came up with this in my head, but I can remember very early on thinking about, I want a mentor in my life and I just had this image of this old man that was going to just come put his arm around me and say, hey, Chris, don't worry. I'm going to show you how to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish. And there's not one mentor for life. There's
Mm,
mentors with specific practical application blueprint that they've already been down the path specific for every area of our life. So if I want to, when I got heavy into pickleball, right? I love pickleball. When I got heavy into pickleball, I didn't go to my business coach and say, "Hey, mentor me in pickleball." No, I went to a pickleball coach. If I want to work with my finances, I went to a financial coach. If I want to work with my marriage, I went to a marriage coach. And so there's multiple mentors that you should have in your life that not just have teach the thing about it and give opinions, but have walked down the road. So you want a
mm,
practitioner, not
Mm.
a philosopher when it comes to mentorship in your life.
Yeah. And on that same line as mentorship, Chris, we had mentors in the fire service, and as a battalion chief, shift commander, I laid out expectations for the company officers, to mentor, their crew, and then also for
Mhm.
the driver operators, to mentor the firefighters. However, there's importance of having a mentor outside of your organization. Could you
Yeah.
speak to that, please?
Yeah, I always go to someone outside the organization as well. So, for example, John Maxwell mentors me. Okay. It's a one-on-one relationship. I have the opportunity to spend time with him, ask questions, but he'll give me feedback and things that I go, okay, I don't need to come to John for this. I need to go and invest in myself outside of what John has invested in me in order for me to show that, hey, look, not only am I taking what you're doing, but I've invested in what I'm doing by getting some outside help to help me sharpen this. And so
mm,
doing that will help accelerate what the corporate assigned mentor is doing, but it also gives you credibility or moral authority when you are coming back from the next position and you say, hey, I've been working with my corporate mentor here, but in addition to that, I've invested money in myself outside of this in developing my skill in this area and this area. And chances are your competition, and not that they have to be, it's not like a, fight to the end competition, but the people that are going up against you for the job, you will stand out because you simply made that outside investment in yourself versus just getting what the company assigned and letting them dictate your learning path. So you definitely want to make sure that, yes, you have a mentor in your company or in your business, but you're also investing money outside of yourself because the outside mentor doesn't have a dog in the fight. They don't have any agenda. They don't have any bias. They have a
Yeah.
clear view of what it is without any of the politics involved, without any of the issues involved to help guide you and to navigate the way.
Yeah, I love that, Chris.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I have run into since I left, retired from the fire department and my business, Firehouse Leadership Academy,
Yeah.
is too many times there could be a mentality, and I'm sure it's not just confined to the fire service, but it's like when I sit down with a firefighter and talk to them about coaching, and in a moment I want to have you address the difference between coaching and mentoring. But
Yeah.
while we're on this line here about investing in yourself, is there some firefighters out there that will say, well, is the fire department going to pay for this? And if I do this, are they going to pay me overtime? And lots of times, these are the same people that have the biggest four-wheel drive on the planet of the Earth, towing a boat, and they've got, nearly 180-foot, RV. Yeah, willing, and I've got nothing against
Right.
recreation, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
people that will soak money into other things, but not that personal investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? What are your thoughts along that
Yeah.
lines?
Well, it's common. That's more common than not, Rick, for us to go out and spend money on things that won't give us a return in our professional career. It may give us some joy, some happiness outside of work, which is good. You have to have that, and I'm not opposed to those things. But the greatest investment that you can make is in your career
Mm,
inside of yourself, not waiting for the company to reimburse you because whatever you learn from the mentor, guess what? You can take that to any career, any profession.
Mhm.
yeah.
That's going to stay with you forever. So your mentorship that you're paying for, your coaching that you're paying for, that's an investment that's going to pay you well beyond the position. Whereas the stuff, I've got stuff just like the next person, right? That stuff, that stuff costs you the maintenance, it costs you the insurance, and it costs you. I'm not getting that money back. It's not going to help me in my career in any way. But what I learned from a mentor, what I learned from a guide, what I learned from a coach can truly stick with me and it compounds over time. Because the more time that I invest in myself in developing those skills, the more that gives a base foundation for my future. And so, hey, I know when I came into this business, I walked away from coaching initially because I'd never heard of paying somebody to help guide me through. I
Mhm.
remember hearing for the very first time. I was at a conference and I heard for the very first time in my life, these people get paid to speak. Oh my goodness, Rick. My mind was blown. I thought, I want to do that. And then I had the opportunity to go find out how to do it. So I ran to the back of the room as fast as I could, and they said, we'd love to tell you all about it. We've got a 3-day boot camp for $997. And I said, no. I said, absolutely not. Because I had never heard of investing in myself outside traditional schooling, and that was
Yeah.
foreign to me. So my mind rejected it, my body rejected it, my finances rejected it. But when I began to come to the conclusion that I could save myself time, energy, and money by investing in myself and how much further that could take me, oh man, how things
Mhm.
begin to change.
Wow, that's great, Chris.
Yeah.
You just said something here a few seconds back that prompted another question in my mind. Is there's two individuals that I have been working with. They're not fire related. They're both currently in a career. One is facing the end of his time,
Mhm.
coming up on his end of his time in the military, and
Mhm.
the other one is trained as a CPA, but really doesn't want to continue to do that.
Right.
And could you talk about the skills that people have that actually are transferable to other professions, because I see people get locked up. And one of the common
Mhm.
things I've heard from one of these guys is, well, I don't know anything else.
Right. Yeah, that's a common question. It's kind of like, especially for a military person coming out of, they're getting ready to come to the end of that, and they may have been behind a helicopter or a gun or a ship or whatever the case may be and go, I don't know how that transfers. What does transfer is leadership development. What does transfer is
Mhm.
communication. What does transfer is coaching. What does transfer are these people skills that you have, discipline transfers, consistency transfers, learning transfers, and your ability to learn. So there is a base of stuff that transfers that you can take to any other industry. Now, the nuances of that new industry, you're going to have to get up to date on that, the vocabulary, how things function, the operations of things. But those skills of leadership, communication, those type of things, all of those transfer with ease, which you can take anywhere.
Yeah, I think and with Emily here, I think she saw that there's a hamburger or fast food place out here in this
Mhm.
part of the country called Freddy's
Yeah,
Steak
yeah, yeah,
Burgers. Yeah,
yeah.
and when one opened up near our house, Emily was one of the first original employees, and I have seen some of the skills that she learned there
Mhm.
transfer over to when she worked in human resources, and then now with a business that she has, and working with other customers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a again, I see some of that stuff too with these two guys that I've been working with as fear-based. There's
Right.
a
Yeah.
comfort
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
Yep. It is. It is. Yep.
Yeah. So, am I in a learning position? That's one of the notes that I wrote down that you
Yeah.
had said. And I think you've really hit on this, but could you dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah, am I in a learning position? If you want to grow in any area of your life, you really do have to be in a learning position. But it all
Mhm.
starts with clarity. Okay, so the first question that I would ask the person that's going into retirement or the CPA that wants to transition that hates what they're doing right now could be is what do you want? What do you want? Because anytime that you're crystal clear on what it is that you want, you've achieved it every single time. Where there becomes a drift, where there becomes a fog, where there becomes overwhelm, is when we don't know what we want. I love the way that John Maxwell put it in the 15 Laws of Growth, said that unhappiness is not knowing what you want and killing yourself to get it. Unhappiness is not knowing what you want and killing
Mhm.
yourself to get it. And so, in those times when we don't know what we want, we can find ourselves busy but not actually going anywhere. So the
Mhm.
first question I would have people ask is, what do I want? And then now,
Mhm.
once that's clarified, now that opens up the lines to be able to say, okay, I need to go and gather information about this specific area that I want to grow. So again, I'm gonna go back to pickleball because, this applies to everything, and this is the 7 steps that I talk about inside of my book, From Drift to Drive. The first step is clarity. The second step is gathering, meaning that I need to gather books, videos, audios, and courses on the area that I want to learn. Because anytime that you go into something brand new, there's a base of knowledge that you have to learn. This third thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to filter that information. I've got to figure out, what's relative, what's relatable today, and is anything that I'm reading dated. And I'm trying to stack that information into what we call layered learning, meaning that I don't just want to gather a bunch of information on different topics, but I want to streamline that information on those books, videos, audios, and courses because this is where overwhelm can happen. Think about this, Rick,
Mhm.
and maybe
Yeah.
you've been
Yeah.
guilty of it. Okay. You're reading a book on one topic, you're watching videos on another topic, you're listening to audio on a different topic, and you're taking a course on a different topic. And you're saying, but I'm learning. But none of it lines up, and you leave yourself overwhelmed. So we have to filter.
Yep.
Mhm.
After that filtering, then now we've got to find that guide or that mentor that can help us in that specific area. So that mentor might be through a book, it might be through a video, it might be through audio, but we need to find a mentor. And then the next step is we need to get around other people that are going that direction. Because if I'm trying to grow as a CPA, for example, and I'm talking to people that are in different industries, that's not going to help me at the moment. I need to get around other people that are aspiring and growing in that specific area. So going back to pickleball, what I do, I got around other pickleball players. What were they learning? How were they doing? What were they reading? What were they watching? And now there's a like-minded environment and community that help propel me in that. But then the next step that you have to take, number six, is action. You can be clear, you can read books, you can have a mentor, but at the end of the day, you have to take action. And then number seven is that you have to evaluate, taking time to reflect on what it is that you learned, what it is that you liked, what it is that you need to change. And so when you follow that cycle time and time again, I promise you, you'll move through further. But it all starts with having a position of I want to learn.
That's great. Emily's going to ask you some questions about
Yeah.
the book, but before she does, I just want to say, hey, folks, those of you who are listening and you've been listening, I've mentioned to you that I'm a member of the Maxwell Certified Leadership Team, and what you are hearing here from Chris Robinson is what is available to me as a member of the team through the mentorship calls, and not only from Chris, from Mark Cole, the president, and several others. It's just it's invaluable. It's
Yeah.
invaluable. And at the end, we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about the team.
Yeah.
Emily?
Yeah. So, Chris, like you said, your book is called From Drift to Drive, a high achiever's guide to breaking the chains of complacency. And that's coming out this month, I believe, that we're recording the podcast.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about it? I know you broke down those steps,
Yeah.
and then where our listeners can get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this book is really built for the person that you've had some success, you've achieved some things, but you've got these areas in your life where you really haven't gone back to work on the skill sets that got you there. It's kind of in autopilot right now. It's in autopilot without intention. And this book really helps you identify those areas of complacency in your life and then helps give you a guide to move further to close that gap between where you're good at it between your potential. And that gap between your good and your potential is greatness, but we stop trying a lot of times when we get good at something. And so when people hear the word complacency, they often think of laziness or apathy or, just a lack of drive, but it couldn't be further from the truth because complacency, if we go back to the original meaning of it, it means careless security. Careless security. It means that, hey, this is something that we're just not taking care of. And so, what I did inside this book is I redefined complacency and this definition we all have in our lives. And the way I define it in complacency in this book is I define it as a secret place of satisfactory success.
Wow.
Secret place of satisfactory success.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, we all have that in different areas of our life. And I think about it, it's the more and more that I've studied this, the more and more I wrote about it, the more and more I've talked about it, the more and more I see it pop up in my life. I was just in Romania speaking, and I was with a friend of mine that's in the business, and he was sharing with me a brand new framework of how he was getting clients, working with organizations, and adding value to them. And I mean, it was like clockwork. I saw exactly how I could implement it. I saw exactly how I could do it. And I said out loud, man, if I wanted to do that, I could. Like, man. But the fact of the matter is, I saw a way to add value to people. I saw a way to make income, but I just wasn't willing to do it. I just wasn't willing to do it. Why? Because there's a secret place of satisfactory success that says, well, I don't need that in my life right now. That applies inside of our relationships. That applies inside of our current positions. That applies inside of our finances. Like we know there's things that we can improve in, but yet there's this secret place to where we're comfortable. And what complacency looks like is busyness. It feels like comfort and it sounds like excuses. And that's exactly how I found myself feeling when my friend was telling me about this new way to develop clients and companies. So we all have it. We just have to identify it and begin to work on it.
Yeah, the busyness. Oh, I think it was towards the end of last year. I got to thinking about busyness. Yeah, and so often people say, "Hey, are you busy?" And I got to thinking about that statement, and I said, I'm productive. I'd
Right,
rather be productive than
right.
than busy, because you
Right.
can find plenty of stuff. I mean, you can play around with
Yeah.
rubber bands and be busy,
Busy. Right. That's correct. That's
with
correct.
them, and you're not getting anywhere. So now
Yeah.
we want to be respectful of your time, and as we're moving here towards the end,
Yeah.
I know what it takes to write a book because I wrote
Yeah.
the Furnace of Leadership Development, and I know the time investment that is in it.
Yeah.
Chris, could you tell us what your motivation was to write your book?
Yeah, so to be honest, I didn't have an intention to write this book. I was actually attending a 3-day workshop on writing and selling a book with a consultant, really just in the context of could I bring this individual in to help us, as Maxwell coaches. And they began to engage me in the process to kind of play along. And they began to ask me, well, Chris, if you were to write a book, what would you write one on? I said, well, you know what, I'm really passionate about solving underperformance inside of organizations and people's lives. And we began to kick around the idea of underperformance. And we got to the root cause of underperformance, which is complacency. And I just lit up. I fell in love with it.
Mm.
And, the next day I come back in and they said, well, hey, if you want to solve for complacency, how would a person solve that? I went to ponder it that next night, and I'm sitting down, at a bench waiting on the Uber to pick me up to take me to the office. And the framework came to me, this flash of all these things that I've achieved in my life. It was following these same 7 steps over and over again. Like the blueprint was so clear to me. And I go back into the office and I share those 7 steps, and everybody just kind of pauses, sets their pens down and go, that's it. That's the one. This is a runner. And so
Oh,
after that, I went to work. And 6 months later, we had the book ready to go, and it's adding value to a lot of people already.
Yeah, that
it's amazing.
that's great, Chris. And
Yeah.
as we wrap this up here, we appreciate you being on. Do you have any final thoughts for us, for
Yeah,
our
I mean,
listeners?
I just want to encourage any of your listeners out there, there is more in store for you. So there's more health, there's more wellness, there's more abundance, there's more in your relationships, there's more in your career, and it's all there waiting for you, but it requires for you to be intentional about what it is that you want. So I'd encourage everyone tonight, hey, get intentional, ask yourself that one question, what do I want? And then begin to line things up to get yourself in place to move towards that goal, dream, or vision that you have. Everything that you want is achievable. You just have to be intentional about it.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's great. And Chris, before we forget, where can people get your book?
Yeah, you can pick it up on Amazon. Drift to Drive is the book. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, Target, you name it. It's available there.
Yeah, yeah. And hey, folks, I encourage you,
It's great.
get Chris's book. And for you guys out there that listen and say, I don't like to read,
There's audiobook.
yeah, see, audiobook. You have no excuse. Improve yourself. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you have an interest in the Maxwell Certified Leadership Team, my contact information
Yeah.
is in the show notes. Reach out to me. We can talk about that. And you can get this type of mentoring on a weekly basis, not only from Chris, but from some of the other fantastic mentors that we have available to us through the team and the resources. And it's absolutely incredible. Emily, you have anything to say as we wrap up?
I don't. I'm excited about your book. This sounds fantastic. I think I'm going to ask myself what I want to.
Right.
Christmas present, Chris.
Yeah.
There we go. There we
Yeah.
go.
Well,
Yeah.
Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to meet you
Yeah.
back in June at the city tours down in the Denver
Yeah.
metro area. And by the time this airs, hopefully I will have run into you at the IMC in
Yes.
August. My wife Deb and Emily, they're coming down to
Oh,
Orlando
that's awesome.
with me, so they will
That's
be there.
great.
So,
We're
folks,
coming more to play, and he's coming to learn.
I love it.
so
I love
folks,
it.
that's it. Again, thank you, Chris Robinson,
Yeah.
Executive Vice President of the Maxwell Certified Leadership Team, for being our first ever
Yes.
guest on Firehouse Talks with Jersey Rick. And folks, if you have liked this, please like and subscribe. Find this on your favorite outlet. And we also are on our YouTube channel. My email and website is in the show notes. So thank you very much. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.